Ladies and gentlemen, how is it going? Welcome to this FL Teams podcast. Isaac Edelman here alongside Mason Feldman. Mason is, just like me, a big Panther and Heat fan, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. How about the Panthers and Heat? The Panthers headed to the Stanley Cup Finals because they beat the Carolina Hurricanes. They didn't just beat them, they swept them. In the Miami Heat, they did not give up a 3-0 series lead. They beat the Boston Celtics on the road in 7 games. Mason, how are you feeling right now?
Isaac, talk about two completely different series. I feel great on one end. I was a little stressed about the Heat last night, but they got it done. In Boston, game 7, where honestly they had most of the success in the series. They won
Yeah.
3 games in Boston out of the 4 wins. If you think about that, that's impressive in itself. But to let it go that long, it does worry me a little bit. However, I got to give them props. We're in the NBA Finals twice in the last 4 years. And in terms of the Panthers, man, it's already been a week since they
Yeah.
swept the Carolina Hurricanes. Isaac, I remember going to 2 Carolina games this season. You probably remember this. The first one was during the hurricane. I don't know if you remember that. It was like a hurricane here. The flights were delayed. They still played the game.
Yeah.
And I got tickets to go to the game. It was awesome. They won that game. Then the final game of the season, they lost. And I was like, I hope we see them again. I want revenge. And boy, did they get revenge. Panthers in 4, Heat in 7. It's a great time to be in South Florida, right, Isaac?
Absolutely. And for you, Mason, you work at Bally Sports. Just describe the atmosphere because you are literally working in an office space where you are seeing the most success possible.
So in TV, Isaac, you know this. A lot of ups and downs. A lot of people, want things done a certain way.
Yeah.
But there's certain moments when you realize that it's more than just a game and it's more than just a television show. It's some people's lives.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here without sports, if you think about it, in the way of some people making their money and making a life out of it and having a career out of it. In the studio, Valley Sports, yes, we only do the post game, but we're watching the whole game. We're rooting. I'm putting down my stats. I'm highlighting. I'm editing my highlights, all that stuff. And it's been awesome. Unfortunately, I didn't get to work game 7 last night because I am in Tampa right now, and I'll explain that a little bit later on. But for now, game 7 was awesome. I worked game 1, game 2, and game 5 because we work most of the road shows.
Yeah.
So for the Heat. And as for the Panthers, they don't really have a studio set up at the stadium. It's a little weird, and I'll get into that more in that later as well. We do every single post-game show from the studio for the Panthers, whether it's home or away.
Wow.
But for the Heat, it's just the road games. So I've worked, about 70 to 80% of them. Sometimes, you can't work 7 days a week. It's like overtime. But, Bally's, they're a great company. They've treated me really well. And I'm looking forward to working both the Stanley Cup and the NBA Finals.
Yeah, and honestly, the fact that you are saying NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals is insane. These were 2 teams that were number 8 seeds. I mean, when you're a fan of a team, you root for them, right? You don't tell your friends, oh, I think we're going to lose. You always think they're going to win. But if you think about it, Mason, did you really think the Heat and Panthers would make it this far? They literally have number 8 in front of their names.
Here's why I'll tell you yes, and here's why I'll tell you no. I'll start with the yes. Go back to last year. Yes, it was a completely different team. I'll start with the Panthers. They had a guy named Jonathan Huberdeau. Jonathan Huberdeau, fantastic, but couldn't get it done in the playoffs. Matthew Tkachuk, on the other hand, got a few series done with the Flames in Calgary in previous years. He is younger, but he has a little bit of that playoff experience as well, and I think he meshes really well with Barkov, having them together. I saw that. I didn't see it coming per se, I have to admit. But once they won game 7 against Boston,
Yeah.
I was like, we have to go to the finals. We have to. I'm not saying it would have been a bust, but this team is carrying the biggest momentum I've ever seen in any hockey team, maybe any team ever. And they've made it all the way to the finals. And I think, relating to the Heat had pretty much the same team last year, minus maybe PJ Tucker, and Dwayne Dedmon's not there anymore. But they got to the finals. They got it done. And if you want my opinion on it, we'll get more into it. But I think the Florida Panthers have a little bit of a better chance than the Miami Heat do in the finals.
Yeah. And it's incredible that obviously FL Teams is a Florida sports site. How dominant Miami sports teams, South Florida sports teams specifically, have been against Boston teams. I mean, the Heat and Panthers both go to TD Garden in game 7. and beat the Celtics and Bruins. It's insane. And you're right. I mean, both of these teams are slightly different, but I just want to talk about the Panthers for a second. Then we'll go to the Heat.
Yeah.
Fans are calling for Paul Maurice to get fired. Fans do not like Sergei Bobrovsky. Hence, the regular season was a struggle. That's why you were an 8 seed, right? You had a strong finish. You had a strong final week or two, and that's why the Panthers are in the playoffs. But then the playoffs come, and Paul Maurice looks like the best coach in the NHL. Sergei Bobrovsky, my gosh, how elite has he been? And Kachuk is just as good. Brandon Montour is good. Buck does his job as a captain. Racco Gudis lays out hits. He really embarks what a playoff game is. I just don't see anyone stopping the Panthers. And here we are facing the Vegas Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup. I don't know what to say, but something has been turned around. Do you know what that is? Because Paul Maurice is no longer getting hate messages, and Sergei Bobrovsky has completely changed his performance and his skill level.
You know what that means, Isaac? It means no one cares about the regular season anymore. That's what it is.
Yeah.
We've come to this day and age where the regular season has come and passed. This time of year, obviously, if we didn't get as far, it'd be different. However, what's more important, the regular season or the postseason? You could be an 8 seed, for years to come now. The Panthers, the Heat, whatever team, could be Celtics, could be Nuggets, could be anybody. Any team could be the 8 seed and now have a chance to make the finals. That doesn't happen that often. And in 2 sports, back-to-back, on back-to-back days, weeks, whatever you want to call it, has been a ride. But in terms of the Florida Panthers' success, like at the end of the game where they put the puck, they give it to the players, they put it on the shelf, 16, I think it's the first 16. I don't see that with the Heat because, they give game balls and stuff, but just I think the locker room vibe has been awesome for the Panthers. And I think hockey in general, just because hockey is more about the team and, basketball is a little more individual, right? You got Jimmy Butler, Caleb Martin, and I'm not trying to say that they're not a team, but, they always pick out one player. But for the Panthers, one night it's Verhaeghe, one night it's Montour, one night it's Cousins, one night it's Duclair, Bobrovsky. You can go on. And that is the success of this team. And, of course, Paul Maurice, fantastic job, very composed.
Yeah.
He does get very heated on the bench. But, at his post-game press conference, they're pretty funny. I'm sure you saw the comment about Alexander Barkov and the bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
We relate to that all too well. But it's just, he's got a good vibe going, and hopefully they can ride it to the cup. And one last point I want to point out, and you'll probably break this down a little bit better than me, because I know how much you love your hockey. The Vegas Golden Knights have 2 players to watch out for: Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith, both former Florida Panthers. What are your thoughts, Isaac?
Well, actually, I mean, I don't know what Riley Smith thinks, but Jonathan Marchessault, he said the other day he still thinks about the expansion draft and he still wishes he was on the Panthers. So it's kind of a homecoming for him. And it's interesting because I remember when he was on the Panthers, he would score overtime goal after overtime goal. He was incredible. And you had to give up someone to the expansion draft. And maybe he would still be on Florida if it wasn't for that. So that's really cool that those 2 players are going to be facing the Panthers. And honestly, you mentioned the regular season doesn't matter. Jimmy Butler would agree. Jimmy Butler has proven that it doesn't matter what he does in the regular season. He's going to average 10 more points per game. This series, we didn't see him at his best against the Celtics. However, he did win Eastern Conference Finals MVP. I kind of disagree with that. I think Caleb Martin deserved it. Talk about Caleb Martin, Mason. This guy was undrafted. This guy was cut by the Charlotte Hornets. The Heat find him. The Heat actually didn't find him. Guess who found him? I don't know if you know this. J. Cole found him.
That's my guy.
And it's just a situation where Heat culture is the best. Pat Riley knows how to find these guys. Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, right? And the Heat continuously know how to rebuild, yet not rebuild. The Heat know how to take a 10-year rebuild and make it into a 1-year rebuild. Do you agree with me?
Isaac, I totally agree. The undrafted story is a great one, but it should only be mentioned once. You know why? Because this team has heard that story over and over, and they're tired of hearing it. They made it to the finals. They beat all the odds pretty much. No one, had them going to the finals. Absolutely no one. And there they are. But I got a story on Caleb Martin. I got 2 stories, actually.
Yeah, sure.
The first one, December 8th, 2021. I was at the game. I didn't go to many games because, the Heat's very far in Miami. I live in Pembroke Pines, all that stuff. He went off. You probably remember this game against the Milwaukee Bucks. Mike Breen calling the game. I think he scored about 32, 33 points that game. I have to double check on the stats, but he was a baller that game. Obviously, Max Schuster was hitting these threes, but that's when I was like, damn, this guy, Caleb Martin, and he wasn't even on a two-way contract at that time. I think he's
Yeah.
coming someday. It was crazy. That's the first story. The second story actually came this year, early in the season. You probably remember this game. Tyler Hero hits a game-winning three against the Kings. You remember that?
Yes.
After the game, I like to dabble sometimes. I signed up for this meet and greet, and at the meet and greet was Caleb Martin, and he was sitting in the chair in the throne. It looked like a big chair. It was cool, like in the locker room. You know how it is. And I told him, "Look, man, you're a fantastic player. I love your dunks. Just keep grinding and do your thing this year." He's like, "I appreciate it, bro." And he gave me a high five. And I wish I could find the picture on my phone real quick. I would show everyone, but I don't want to waste the time here because you got to believe me. Caleb Martin is one of the most humble players on this team, maybe in the league, and right now one of the most underrated. And he's probably going to get a big contract.
Yeah.
Whenever his contract expires, and I'm sure you can you can dwell on that more, Isaac. Tell me about his contract.
Well, first of all, Caleb Martin definitely made a ton of money this playoffs. And in terms of being underrated, I think he is not underrated anymore, and that's a good thing. Why, Mason? People know his name. Look at this. Game 1, 15 points. Game 2, 25 points. Game 3, 18 points. Game 4, 16 points. Game 5, 14. Game 6, 21. And Game 7, 26 points.
Yeah.
Those are not Michael Jordan numbers, but that is consistency. Consistency. And for someone who was undrafted, someone who was waived, someone who, well, maybe only Heat fans knew his name, and for someone who was a role player this season, that is incredible. You are showing up on a big stage in the playoffs, in the Eastern Conference Finals. I guarantee you, Mason, without Caleb Martin's performance, the Heat are not where they are today. The Heat are not going to face the Denver Nuggets in the NBA Finals.
I agree.
So let's just stay on the Heat for a second, because I know we have to jump between the Heat and Panthers.
Of course.
Eric Spoelstra, 1995. What was he doing, Mason?
1995? Was that when he was a video coordinator? I think that was right.
Yep.
Right?
Bingo. And you fast forward many years, in 2023, he has coached the Miami Heat to 6 NBA Finals in 13 seasons. This will be his 7th, and maybe the Heat will get their 4th NBA Finals championship.
How do you think this Nuggets Heat series is going to play out in your mind?
It's very interesting. The Nuggets, I think, are one of the most underappreciated teams in the playoffs. Not many people give them credit. They think it's just Nikola Jokic's show, but it's not. Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., they have all played well. Even KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, he has played a unique role position in the playoffs. Aaron Gordon was amazing against the Lakers. It just shows you that the Nuggets do dominate because of Nikola Jokic, but there is more needed. And the Heat match up kind of well with Jokic. When you defend Jokic, and I'm speaking of Bam Adebayo here, you don't try to keep him under 20 points. It's not shutting him down. There's no such thing as shutting down the MVP.
Correct.
But there's such thing as limiting him. You can limit him instead of 40 points to 25. You know what I mean? And in terms of Jamal Murray, it will be an interesting matchup because, they're going to put Vincent on Murray. They're going to put Martin on Murray. They're going to put Butler on Murray. The Heat don't just have a set man the entire game.
Correct.
And the Heat are a defensive team. And defense is most important against a team like the Nuggets because the Nuggets play aggressive. The Nuggets are one of the most aggressive teams in the NBA. We know this. Jokic is unstoppable. I don't know if you saw that shot against the Lakers. Jokic is basically a Dirk Nowitzki, but a way better defender. He has the offense. And it just puts me in this position where, who knows? The Heat do not play the Nuggets that often. When you play them, you remember that Marcus Morris incident. Sorry, Markieff Morris. I'm mixing up the twins. That Markieff Morris incident, it just sets up for an aggressive series. I think Jimmy Butler's ready. I hope his ankle heals, and we'll see if Tyler Hero can play. There's some rumors that he's aiming to be ready by Game 3.
That's true, man. Hey, I've seen all the the tweets, the Twitter. I read everything, like Instagram, whatever. They're
Yeah,
like, "Oh, this Nuggets Heat matchup's gonna be boring. I want Lakers Celtics." No, excuse me. We have beef, we have history, and we have
yeah,
new teams, fresh teams. Who wants to see Lakers and Celtics? I'm sorry, they
exactly.
have all the championships they could ever want, and the Nuggets are going for their first, which they're gonna want badly, and then obviously we're going for our fourth. But the key factor in this series, I think, Isaac, was going to be it's going to come down to the defensive side. Obviously, we know both teams can score,
Yeah,
and the Miami Heat have a great defense, but I got to give it to the Nuggets right now, just because I'm not saying I'm not giving them the series per se, but I'm giving them the advantage because I've seen how Bruce Brown's played. I've seen how Jeff Green's played. Aaron Gordon. You can go down the list. KCP. I think he was on that championship team in 2020 for the Lakers.
yes, he was.
So he has championship experience under his belt, and he's been balling for the Nuggets. I I hope this series goes 6 to 7 games, and hopefully he can pull it out. But they got to come out at least, in my opinion, win 1 out of 2 in Denver. If they lose the first two, I mean, we have seen a 3-0 comeback, all the way to 7. We've seen 2-0 comebacks, obviously. Um, but if they win one of the first two in Denver, Isaac, they have a good chance to win it in 6 or 7. If they lose the first two, it could be over by 5 or 6, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And I'm scared because I speak highly. I know many people, flame the Lakers and make fun of them, and there's all types of memes because it's LeBron. But the Lakers made the Western Conference Finals, and you swept them. You swept a team with LeBron James.
Mm-hmm.
You swept them. That scares me. And what also scares me is if you look at the Denver Nuggets, they don't have the most depth, but they don't need to. Look, you have your starting lineup. You have Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Jokic, Murray, and KCP. But then you only use 2 bench players, Bruce Brown and Jeff Green. The Heat automatically have Kevin Love, Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson, and then sometimes you put Cody Zeller out there. You put Haywood Highsmith out there. It just, which is fine. You'd rather have more depth, but I think it's easier for the Nuggets because they have a set rotation night in, night out. Add Tyler Hero into the equation, Mason. The Heat have more depth than the Nuggets. But I think that could be a problem in the playoffs because in the playoffs, you just want to go out there, score points, and leave with a dub. The Heat, I feel like, and they're good at this because Eric Spoelstra's at the helm. They have to change things around too much.
Yeah, you're exactly right when it comes to the depth of the players and Eric Spoelstra, switching things, matchups. Here's the thing that worries me most. I mean, obviously we played all the way up. The first series 5 games, the second series 6 games, and the third series 7 games. The Nuggets in the first round, they beat Minnesota in what, 4 games or 5 games? Do you know that off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I can quickly look. Against the Timberwolves in 5 games.
5 games, right? The second series against the Suns, I believe they won in 6 games.
Correct.
And then now again, 4 games. So if you look at the number of games, it's 3 less games, and that should make a huge difference. However, the third series is what matters, right? The conference finals. The Nuggets have had so many days off. Maybe they'll be out of rhythm, but maybe they're so well rested. They're like, damn, we're going to come out firing.
I know.
I mean, it was a bold move for obviously the Heat to have the flight to go to Denver, and I'm happy that they made it. But I hope they can put up a fight, and I think they will.
Yeah.
But it's got to go through, of course, Jimmy Butler. Bam, I've seen a lot of positives from him, but he can also do a lot of better things as well. Last night even, like, he was missing those easy jump shots, and that's not going to go well against Jokic. He's going to body you. He's going to toughen you up, and like against Al Horford, it's a little bit easier in my opinion. But Nikola Jokic is just a beast. He's a beast. He's the MVP for a reason. Should have been 3 times in a row. But that's a debate for another day. No disrespect to Joel Embiid, fantastic player, but who's here and who's not, right? Nikola Jokic is looking for his first championship. He's hungry, and hopefully he could put a stop to that, put a fire under Nikola Jokic and stop him, burn him up.
Yeah, it's a continuous discussion in sports, Mason, about rest. Talk about the Panthers. The Vegas Golden Knights just finished their series last night. They beat the Stars 6-0. They won in 6 games. The Panthers have had a lot of rest. The Nuggets have had a lot of rest. I think it varies team by team, and everyone argues about this, and everyone's literally split 50-50. Some will say, oh, definitely more rest helps. Your body's healed, your injuries are healed, you're ready, you're still practicing with the team, but out of rhythm. You might have seen a court practicing, but have you been in the atmosphere in a while? Have you faced competitiveness? So, and there's really no set answer. And I think it depends team by team. With the Heat know that they can get the job done under any circumstance. NBA bubble, right? Um, but the Panthers is interesting. The Panthers don't have a lot of playoff experience. So with the Panthers, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, they're going to go to Vegas for the first two games, but then they're going to come back to Sunrise for games 3 and 4.
Correct.
So we're going to wrap up this podcast soon. But again, I just want to break down what we've seen. Let's talk about Miami's unreal playoff run. You lost the first playing game to the Hawks, but then you beat the Bulls in the playing final for the number 8 seed. There were 3 minutes left in the game. The Bulls were up by 3 points. We were that close to not even making the playoffs, let alone the NBA Finals. Then we knocked out the number 1 seed Bucks in 5 games. Yeah, that's a number 8 seed beating a number 1 seed team with Giannis. Then you beat the number 5 seed Knicks in 6 games. We just beat the number 2 seed Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. And so now we are the first playing team to make the finals and the second number 8 seed to ever make the finals. It's really incredible, Mason. I mean, you cannot draw this up better. Talk about scripts. You lose a playing game, and then the Bulls are on the verge of beating you, and here you are today in the NBA Finals. I don't care if the Heat don't win in the NBA Finals. I mean, I do care, but to make it this far is simply improbable, and that's where you talk about other South Florida sports teams, the Miami Hurricanes in March Madness, the FAU Owls in March Madness.
Yep.
Incredible. South Florida is the sports capital. It's proven. You cannot argue against it. What is your stance when someone says, oh, Boston, Los Angeles, New York is the sports capital? What do you have to say to them?
I say, look where they're at now. You're sitting at home watching us play. That's exactly, Isaac, I see you
Exactly.
nodding your head. You know what it is? Look, the Miami Heat have a culture for a reason. And now I can slowly start to see, the Florida Panthers have that same spark. And you know why? Because players supporting players. You see Jimmy Butler, the Chuck jersey. I don't think I've seen T'Chaka in a Butler jersey, but I think I saw him with the Heat shirt. You know what I mean? Like I've seen them go back and forth. Yes, the culture has been insane, and again, I'm just very proud to represent. I know I'm wearing a Tampa Bay hat, and that's another topic for another day because maybe we'll do another podcast with the Rays
Yeah.
making the World Series. That's a bold prediction, but right now, I mean, they've been looking fantastic. I've been working some of the games up there at Valley Sports. Got to shout out my company a little bit, Valley Sports. So as we're talking, Isaac, as we finish it up here, I am very blessed and very proud to work, hopefully, most of the Stanley Cup and NBA Finals games. Whatever they need me to do, I'll be in that studio. I wish I was at the stadium. However, I'm very thankful and grateful I get to work for a great company. Bally's is treating me well, and I've been there over a year now. I think it's been a year, almost a half, but it's been fantastic. Two more things before I let you go. If you're cool with doing this, you got to give me. We'll each do it. Your honest predictions for each series and why. Panthers in 6, Vegas in 7, Heat in 6, Night in 7. But I want to hear what you go first, and then I'll go, and then we'll vice versa. Are you okay to do that?
Yes, I am.
You go first. Start. Who do you want to start with?
I'll start with the Panthers. That's my easier prediction.
Okay.
I think Panthers in 6. I think the Panthers are going to finish it in 6 games. Game 6 will be at home, so I think they will raise the Stanley Cup in front of the home fans in Sunrise. The Panthers have had such an improbable run. No one's stopping Sergei Bobrovsky. I don't care who's on Vegas. You can't get a shot past him. And then Matthew Tkachuk. Yeah, he's going to get a shot past you. I'm sorry. I mean, if Tkachuk was going against Sergei Bobrovsky, I'd give it to Tkachuk. But Sergei Bobrovsky isn't in net for Vegas. I think the Panthers have been so special. You're a number 8 seed. You want it more than Vegas. Vegas wants it because they're a new expansion team. They've never won the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
But I just think that in terms of expectations, everyone has doubted the Panthers. You cannot stop here. You have to win the series. You have to win the cup in 6 games.
Wow, that's pretty bold. I mean, look, we might be back here, doing one of these shows again, podcast, whatever you want to call it, because Isaac Edelman right here is the GOAT. This man, I would not be here without him. And also, maybe the Heat and Panthers won't be here without him, but that's a story for another day as well. We're going to start, or you started with the Panthers in 6. I believe they have a lot of momentum going for them. I believe the Panthers are going to win, but I think it's going to take 7 games. It's going to be a long, grueling series, I feel like, because both these teams, they don't want to give an edge. If the Panthers, like I said, same thing with the Heat. They got the back 2 games, right? 3 and 4. Panthers take 1 out of 2 in Vegas, feeling good. They take 2 in Vegas. That's going to be scary, in a good way. But I believe Panthers in 7 games, it would maybe nice for them to lift the trophy at home, but it's going to take a lot more than that. I think it's 7 games. And they've shown, as you've seen, Isaac, they've been one of the best road teams in the playoffs.
Yes.
They've won, 65, 70% of the road games they played in, maybe more than that.
And so obviously this has been an amazing podcast, and we couldn't have done it without the Panthers and Heat. And just me personally being a Florida sports fan, it's more than covering them on NFL teams. It's just been an incredible run. I mean, you talk about the Panthers. I am younger than the majority of Panther fans, obviously, but for many, they haven't seen this in a while. Maybe they don't even remember it. The Panthers are going to their first Stanley Cup final in 27 years. The Panthers had the fewest points out of any playoff team and fell behind 3-1 to the record-setting Bruins. Yes, the Bruins set a record for most regular season wins. They weren't any number 1 seed. They seemed like the most dominant number 1 seed in many years. And here we are today, Mason, looking at a Panthers team 4 wins away from winning a championship. And a Heat team who is the second number 8 seed to ever make the finals. And the Heat last made the finals in 2021 in the bubble against the Lakers. The Heat also 4 wins away from a championship. Domination in South Florida. FL teams, Florida Sports Source. Honored to be covering 2 talented teams. I'm honored to be a fan of both of these teams. I'm lucky to say that I am not a bandwagon fan because I don't blame you for being a bandwagon fan. These 2 teams are special. Join the fun like me and Mason.
Exactly right. And last thing before we go, I know Isaac said Panthers in 6. I said Panthers in 7. Give me your last thoughts on the Heat series. What are you thinking?
I think Heat in 7. You can't doubt the Heat, and if the Heat are going to win, it has to be in 7 games. In Denver, Jokic, we need to limit him. And I think Jimmy Butler, he hasn't put up a 40-plus point performance in a while. He last did it against the Bucks. I think it's time because he didn't do that good against the Celtics. I think he was saving up his energy to dominate against those Nuggets.
I love your boldness and enthusiasm. And as a fan, I would pick Heat in 6, Heat in 7. Realistically, I got to give it to the Nuggets this year. I know we're Florida teams, but I have to be realistic, Isaac. You know me. I'm a realist. Nuggets are the best team. I mean, anything can happen, right? Anything can happen.
Yeah.
I do think the Nuggets win in 6, but hey, maybe we'll be back here and I'll get proved wrong, and you'll tell me why I was wrong, right?
Yeah, and we'll come back to these predictions. I think you hope I'm right because you want my Heat prediction to hit. But okay, it's fine. You're being real.
Yep.
If you're wrong, I hope Heat fans beat you up. But anyway,
Yep.
I think you hope that happens as well.
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get beat up, but I do want to have a talking to. You can chop my ear off. But if I was right, I mean, we'll talk about why I was right, obviously. And I think we should do this again. I know we're live on the air, and let me tell you, Florida teams, this is the start of something special. This man right next to me, Isaac Edelman, is going to be huge one day. You're looking at a mini Mike Breen. This man does everything. I love Mike Breen. I know you love Mike Breen. That's one of my favorite broadcasters of all time. And look, I lose my voice a lot. You have the strong voice. You have the will. You have the grit. And I just really want to applaud you and Florida teams. And guess what? The fans, whoever's watching, whoever's going to watch, need to stay tuned. We might have something special going on Friday. Right, Isaac?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mason, for coming on. I appreciate it. Isaac Edelman, Mason Feldman, signing off here on FL Teams. It has been an amazing run for the Panthers and Heat. However, it isn't over yet. 4 wins away for both teams. And if that happens, we'll definitely do another podcast. Mason Feldman will be right on with me, Isaac Edelman. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure to check out flteams.com for the best Florida sports coverage. It's your one-stop shop for all sports in the state of Florida. And make sure to follow at FL Teams on all social media platforms. Everyone, go Panthers and go Heat. Have a great rest of your day.